Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Kageyama, and I'd like to welcome everyone here to the Cancer Conquering Community. And today we have a very special guest from the beautiful island of Maui. And his name is Guy Nakoa, and he is going to bring a ray of sunshine, a virtual ray of sunshine, a breath of fresh air, some aloha. Guy, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what your cancer story is.
Good morning, everybody. Aloha from the islands. My name is Guy Nakoa. I'm a stage 4 male breast cancer survivor. I was diagnosed in 2017, but for most of my life, I grew up here in Maui. So it's a beautiful place. There's a lot of meaning to the islands. We listen to the ocean and nature in itself. So we're very spiritual people, collectively. But for me, that's kind of like how my journey started. And I kind of before I can even go forward, I got to kind of go back a ways. So when I was 7 years old, a voice spoke to me and told me my life is going to be making a difference in people's lives. And at that time, I didn't know what that was about. So I kind of just aimlessly went through life, kind of trying to make a difference in whatever I did. And I couldn't find my reason for doing anything I was doing. I went back to college at 38 years old because, I kind of wanted to do that. My uncle was an executive chef at that time, when I was growing up. So I kind of wanted to be like him. So that kind of inspired me to go into the culinary field. I spent over 2 decades in doing something that I absolutely loved. And over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I kept thinking to myself, I need to find me something that I can do for the rest of my life that will be able to match my passion that I had in the industry. What I didn't realize was if anybody who works in the food service industry know what it's like. It's very hectic. There's not enough time in the day. There's just violence and screaming and yelling, and it tests you as your mental ability to overcome things. It doesn't matter what you did today. All it matters is what you're going to do tomorrow when you show up. So, I kind of endured that for a long time. But after a while, what I realized is when I was diagnosed with my cancer, God actually kind of put me in this position because I had to endure a lot of stuff to get to this point. And when I was diagnosed afterwards, and I just realized this the other day, I would always share my story and like I didn't want to accept it when I found my lump. I never told a soul where me and Mark was kind of cracking up about it. It's like you had it all this time and you didn't say anything. What I realized was I was isolated. So even though I was walking around and acting like everything was fine, I didn't want to deal with my cancer. So when I got the diagnosis that day that I had a neuroendocrine tumor on the left wall of my breast, I was just like, whoa, what is this about? This is real. And again, it was just the acceptance of it. So only until last year when I went to Oahu for have my breast removed, and I really trusted my doctors at that point. That's kind of what changed for me because I was staying over at Hope Lodge and I was able to meet all these different people that was there. The cancer patients was there and then the caregivers. So my sister was my caregiver at the time. And what I realized afterwards was it's not just the patient that's going through the struggle of it, it's the caregiver too.
Mhm.
So the caregiver is just as much as invested in their time as far as yours, because now they're claiming a bigger responsibility of being the caregiver because they're giving themselves up to save yours. So when it comes to my sister, it's like I'm very thankful she was there. We didn't know what we was doing at the beginning. I had no clue on how to get there, but everything just unfolded on the way. And I had to pay for everything out of pocket myself was to get there. My sister had no clue what was happening with my cancer too, because she just knew I had cancer. She didn't understand the severity of what was going through. My mother died of cancer, so all we knew was cancer was death. We didn't see the other side, the mental side of enduring what you got to go through, man. And we experienced it firsthand. And I was lucky that I picked the right person to be with me. I didn't have a lot of people that I could choose, but she was there. So she forced me to kind of look at things and come out of my shell. And once I started spending time with those people that was there, I understood that this is not about me anymore. This is about their stories, about getting that out there where now I wanted to connect with different groups and being part of this community because it's important. I mean, this is not even like maybe 2% of people out there in the world just trying to understand it. So when I would come up to them, I told them I got breast cancer. A lot of them just tell me, I didn't even know that was possible. So I don't know. Hope Lodge did a lot for me. And when I came back home, I was kind of like, okay, this is what I wanted to do, but I really wasn't fully invested yet until I came back and I had to return to work. So I was away from my job for like 8 months, back to the toxic world, back to the culinary world. And I wasn't even at 100% yet. And yet, when I walked in, my chef was all over me. Like he was making me do things that just like I was there yesterday. They didn't realize that I came back as a different person. They didn't care because at that point, they're just looking at me like, oh, I'm 62 years old. I'm just an old man. You know what I mean? Like they didn't see that love I had. They just they was moving out already. They was changing direction, and they didn't see the value in me. Till my chef told me that you can't do this job anymore. No, so you can look for something to do, something else. And without even thinking about it, I left. I gave my 2 weeks, and I never even had one job yet. I was just like, he was my mentor. I loved him, but it wasn't about him. It was about this moment right here, being able to tell my story and understanding like people they don't have to get what we're going through. We get it. We know it. We understand it. So didn't matter after that. I forgave them. I forgave them because main thing, I understood what I was doing. And so that's what I try
I'm
to
going to
do.
pause you right there, Guy. You just brought up a huge, very, very important point is you forgave them. Talk about that part because that is much easier said than done. I mean, you hear about it and they say, "Oh, okay, he forgave him." But that is a difficult, difficult thing. So if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Came back to my religion, came back to what God wanted me to do, you know, my impact on what was happening. I did it there already, you know. And was I angry about it? Yes. Was I upset? Well, totally, totally. When you commit yourself to something like that, where you believe what you was doing, and then they don't recognize the value of what you were about, it's like they didn't understand. And doing these things like this now, it further shows my growth as a person. That when people's going to see me talking about my story. Now, eventually they're going to get it. Oh, that's what guy was doing. That's what he was going through. I don't expect them to get it, you know. But main thing, I share the story is the most important thing. Yeah, I'm very spiritual. So it gets back to, us living in Hawaii. We're very, very spiritual people. Kind of like something out of like Avatar, when we met the Avatar and it was all spiritual with the land and everything. Hawaii is very similar like that. But the new generation of children that's growing up now, they don't recognize that. They don't see that. They don't understand the blood, sweat, and tears that the sacrifices that was made for us as a people to live here. So when I figured it out, when I was in Oahu, my sister, my God, she drove me absolutely crazy. So we must have been there for like maybe like 8 days because my recovery, my doctor didn't want me to fly home. So he wanted me to make sure I could take out all that drainage stuff that I had. So my sister is just making us walk all over Honolulu. So if you ever been to Oahu, it's like a giant city on a rock. Okay, it's just busy as heck there. And where are you going? You're not going nowhere. You're stuck in a rock. You're not going to drive off to the Maui. No, you're not going. You're just going to go around in circles. But anyway, it's just totally congested with people there. The military is there. Everything, all our food and everything comes into Oahu. But anyway, when we was there, my sister was just making me walk all over every day. And the day after my surgery, we're walking around Chinatown looking around for stuff. I don't know what we was looking. And I'm telling my sister, Mom, I just had surgery like 24 hours ago. And you're making me walk all over town. And she was just like, you need to exercise. But anyway, we meet this lady, this elderly lady from Canada. Okay. So she was there from Canada. She's standing by the street light, waiting to cross the road. And we come walking by. And then so my sister, being the awesome person that she is, she starts making small talk with the lady. Right? So she's telling her, oh, yeah, we're there because my brother had surgery, he had cancer, and they removed it. And the lady just feels compelled now, right in the middle of all that. She pulls out this card and she goes, I need to say this prayer for you right now. And I'm looking at my sister, I'm gonna kill you, man. I'm gonna kill you. And the lady was just like, oh no, Lord praying over me. She's with her hands like this. I'm like, you can't make this up. We're in the middle of nowhere. And this is all happening. But it's it's like that divine connection. That's when you're where you're supposed to be. So we ended up walking to Iolani Palace. So Iolani Palace was where, a lot of the kings lived, like the White House. So Iolani Palace is like Hawaii's version of the White House. So that was my dream to be able to go see two things. So there was a statue of King Kamehameha that's downtown Honolulu, where he was, right across the street from Iolani Palace. So I got to see two things. I ran over there, and there's this big sign that said, "Do not climb on the grass because it's off limits." I'm like, hell no. This is my king. I'm gonna go stand next to the statue. So we end up standing up there, but we end up going to Iolani Palace. So the moment we walked in Iolani Palace, it felt like we was in the Titanic. Just to me, it was just like, wow, we was thrown back in time. And you knew that this is where Queen Liliuokalani lived. This is where she was in prison. And I started to read all the stuff that she wrote about how she asked the Hawaiians to not rise up against the military because it's what we're doing today that's going to perpetuate our people into the future. So I realized then that what she was doing was she was making a way for me to rise up and speak about what I'm doing today. So that was the significance of it all. That's how I knew right then this is what I wanted to do. So I left my job and I took another job. I'm currently working at a new job now, which is super chill, but it's all about this, signing up to be a volunteer for hospice to help. And, I'm part of our cancer group on Maui. And, they always want me there because they're seeing my influence on, kind of being able to share my story is important. But I'm kind of jumping on top here today. So it's a blessing for me. And what I've learned is to always be grateful because we always get challenges every day. So always try to operate in a grateful place. I should I should have done a lot of research on how serious my cancer was at the time. Like Jonathan and Bill did on last week's recording, how they were so informative on what they talked about and how they got to the place. But I realized when they were doing their marathons and what they was thinking about was they was able to put themselves in isolation in that moment because they was running and they wasn't worried about their cancer anymore. They was basically kind of just double checking what was going on with them, how the blood pressure was, or whatever was going on. So they had that internal clock that was kind of telling them, what they was doing. And I just thought that was fascinating to me. I mean, running 27 miles and then feeling like I just did 27, that's mind-boggling to me. But such a magical it was such a magical moment for me to just listening to this amazing people share their story. I just share the emotional side of it. I don't really get caught up on the other side because I think when we're going through our cancer and struggles, nobody really focuses on the mental side of those sides. So you wake up in the morning, you don't want to get out of bed. And what I've done over time was I was able to surround myself with a lot of people that I call my safety mechanism that I can reach out to and talk. So I don't feel so isolated. I talk to my daughter as much as I can so I can see my grandchildren. So those are like, kind of things to keep me focused and um, lifted. I get a phone call one day from my daughter. So my daughter tells me like this, "Hey Dad, you gotta listen to this." So we're doing a FaceTime, right? So we're live. So my daughter tells my granddaughter, goes, "Oh, can you tell Grandpa what you just told me?" So there's a picture of me and my daughter when we were younger. This Hawaiian picture because to me, I thought that was very important. We were all dressed up in all Hawaiian stuff. And my daughter's only little, maybe about 5 years old at the time. But my granddaughter walks up to the picture and points at me and she goes, "That's my grandpa right now." And I just started bawling. I couldn't even stay on the phone. I told my daughter, "Okay, honey, I gotta go." Like, boom, like, because that's what this is about. This is what my journey is about. It's about being able for my grandchildren to grow up one day and have that conversation with their mom and dad and go like, what was grandpa like? And I want them to be able to reach back and show them videos of me talking or, an article that I posted, on something. And there was a lot of things that I already had put in their home up there to make sure that their grandpa was was resilient enough to not give up because it's so easy to give up. It's so easy. I mean, this is something that I think Joe Bullock from Men Up to Cancer wrote. He said, all our cancers are different, but we walk along the same journey. And I kind of thought that was pretty profound for me. Like, cancer sucks for all colors of the cancer, like whatever's out there. It kind of affects everybody. But for me, I just like being happy. I'm just this goofy guy going through life and, you know, I used to be that toxic. I don't want to talk to you. Get away from me. But my personality is I like being happy. I like people being happy around me. After I get off of this doom, I'm gonna have to go with my sister and go spread my brother's ashes. Um, I've been seeing my brother for 40 years, and he kind of lived in a mental asylum place when he was like 16, 17 years old. So we never got to see him. And when he passed away, the hospital actually sent the ashes to my sister. So it's going to be a good time for us to spend time with him. And, kind of honey, honey. So honey, honey means kind of love on him. So we're going to go spend time and honey, honey on him. And then we're gonna let him go down the Akokala River. So anyway, anybody had any questions or you let me just keep on talking? I could talk all day.
Go ahead, keep going, guy. That's some great stuff,
I'm loving the
and
story.
yeah, you know what I'm always impressed with is, whenever somebody's speaking, I want to know if that person believes in what they're saying. And I don't think there's any question that you have lived it and you've learned from it and you've become a different person as a result of it. And so I commend you uh, on your journey because, it's so important, when we're going through cancer, to me, cancer is about the lessons we've learned. We've been presented with a disease, and I don't see how it's possible that a person can't learn an incredible amount from a cancer journey. So, and I know that you have. So keep going. It's fantastic. I mean, we're gonna, after about 10 hours, we're gonna cut you off though.
I just want to comment something that he said before, and you are right, guy. Usually, when someone is um, suffering from cancer, people forget about mental health, how important it is, and how is this person not only physically, spiritually, and mentally suffering. One thing you mentioned that, and the second thing is uh, it is very, very usual that we forget about the person who is taking care or the caregiver, because also the caregiver and people around this person is also suffering in many ways. Maybe the person tries to be very brave not to give more load to the person who is going through the cancer journey, but those things are very important, really, really important to take into consideration.
Welcome. Well, I mean,
Mhm.
getting back to my sister, when we started doing this, I told her, this is your idea. So everything I do now, I tell her, this is your fault. Because when we was in Hawaii, she said two things to me that changed my point of view. The first one she said to me was, "What happened to my brother? My brother that I grew up with was always optimistic. He was always fun loving. What happened to that guy? Where did my brother go?" And I didn't say anything. As a younger brother, and with out of respect for your older sister, you don't say a word. You just take it and you just be quiet. So I didn't say anything. I just wanted her to be able to voice what she had to say. And then a couple of days later, she told me, "This is not my life. This is your life. I'm not here to stand in your life. You need to stand up and stand in it." So ever since that time, when she told me that, I told her, "This is all your idea now. You wanted me to do. You wanted me to stand up. So here I am." And so she's very thankful, on this journey that I'm going through. And shortly after we came home from my surgery, my brother-in-law, her husband, was diagnosed with cancer. So he has cancer on his throat and then close to his heart. So they're kind of doing that. But my sister is very thankful because we was able to go through that process where now she knew what to do, where she wouldn't have been all alone, like, oh, now she's got to scramble to get information. We basically went open that door for seeking out the navigator that you need help with and getting the resources that you needed. So I mean, it worked out. It worked out both well today. I mean, making that whole thing, and it just changed my whole perspective. I started to dig around and started searching out groups like Men After Cancer, Mobile, Male Breast Cancer Global Alliance. I just started becoming like this sponge where I kind of met Mark and we kind of just talking, and here I am. I'm on a video, like recording my goofy journey. You know what I mean? Like, uh, but it's a blessing. At the end of the day, it's a blessing. I was able. I cannot be remiss about kind of mentioning this person. So a good friend of mine, we was kind of seeing each other for a while, and I was at the height of dealing with my diagnosis, and I was very toxic, very closed-minded, and she would always push me to tell me, you need to seek help, you need to get away from your job, quit your job, move back to this side. And it took me years to finally realize this is what was happening. And I'm so thankful that she did that for me. She's not part of my life as much as she used to be because she has her own life and she has to, protect herself too. So I don't want her to be caught up in, what we went through. And that's the thing. That's my message is like, you got to get the help. Don't drag that person that's really being there for you and being supportive with you. Get the help that you need. And that's what I did. I seeked out a therapist when I should have seeked out the therapist years ago, but I was able to talk about stuff and be able to let go of a lot of things that held me back and get me out of the isolation. So, and a big turning point for me was I had a great job. Okay. I had this supervisory job that I had taken like about 2 months ago. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get good pay. I've got the title of being the supervisor. I was going back to a place where when I was younger, I just started kind of starting my family. So there was a lot of history there. I knew the owner of the company at the time. So I was like, yes, I'm coming back. So 30 years later, as this person, I'm all this, I did it, I got there. And then my friend just reminded me of my old job. She was very toxic, always yelling. This is 3 o'clock in the morning. I got things better to do at 3 o'clock in the morning. My mom's dead. I don't know. Nobody's gonna yell at me like that anymore. And I just came home one day and I just said, I'm done with that. And I ended up leaving. I just quit. My friend's like, aren't you even gonna give it a try? Because I've been here for 7 weeks. Don't you think that's trying enough? I just didn't have that love that I used to have before for it because I'm not planning on being there for another 10 years. Hopefully I'm not going to be dead, but I don't want to be getting yelled at 3 o'clock in the morning because my eggs came out wrong. I'm a grown man, you know what I mean? Like, come on now. But anyway, so I left it and I was working all this time. I was on vacation. I was like, yeah, I'm on vacation. The bills is piling up. Don't worry, I got God on my side. I got it. And I kind of just chilled and just kind of just believed in my faith. And, uh, I was able to find a job now. But it's like like Mark said earlier, like if you really believe in what you're doing, you're going to do it. I mean, it doesn't matter what people say. At the end of the day, we're not going to be able to get away from it. We're all going to have to die one day. But
Hmm.
it's not being worried about when that time is going to come. It's living your life to the best life you can until that time comes. The clock is going to run out, and you know it's going to run out. But till then, I got things to do. Like I made the funny comment one day, like the Grim Reaper comes knocking at my door, and I got a sign on my door that says, "I'm out to lunch. Go F yourself." You know what I mean? Go find somebody else. But it's not a nice thing to say, but uh, that's how committed I am to living the extraordinary life I get to live. I mean, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've learned. It wasn't the failures that defined who I was. It was the lessons that I learned and to move forward. Don't look back because you're not going back there, and that's not what you're planning to do. You're moving forward, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening. I actually see this lady who's dealing with her cancer right now on TikTok. So I'm following her for some reason. I'm just compelled. I'm following her, and she's going through a second treatment today. I told her, hey, I want you to kind of jump on this, you know, podcast that we're having because she has an amazing story of what she's doing. She's like fully thorough about making sure her hair don't fall out, and she's gonna do the capping thing and everything else. Like, man, I never even thought about doing that. My hair just fell out. I went bald, and it was just the way it is. But even when my hair fell out, I looked good bald. Like I got that Michael Jordan head, like. But bald is beautiful, man. It's like yeah, you're born with hardly any hair on, and so I did it both ways. But uh, you know, my girlfriend used to tell me before because I'm a big Darth Vader fan. She would always tell me like, "Oh, you're going to be Vader," like because I was always negative then back then. But I told her it wasn't Darth Vader that was the problem. He was the good guy. It was Anakin that was the problem. So she never, it was always over her head when I tried to tell her, hopefully everything else is gonna, pan itself out. But I'm truly grateful to be alive. I mean, I walk around, I recalibrated my life. I surrounded me with people that really helps me to propel myself forward. I'm going to church a lot. I'm connected with our men's Bible group, doing some volunteer work for hospice and being on, you know, group meetings like this is important for what I'm doing. I mean, why not? Right? I got nothing better to do. Talk about myself. No, I don't say that. I just saying, it's like, but my friend, anyway, getting back to her, she was the one that actually changed me because I had that crab in the bucket mentality back then. Like you're trying to get out, you know what I mean? And then somebody keep pulling you back in. She was the one that was strong enough to pull me out. But the problem was it was the sacrifice that she did in order to pull me out. The emotional trauma of what I put her through that I'm never going to be able to find enough words to apologize for that. And the only thing I can tell her is thank you. I love you. And I tell her that all the time. I tell her all the time. And she was like, oh, those are just words. Okay. I get it. You know what I mean? But if you listen to it long enough, you're gonna feel it. By me kind of being on the cancer community like this and being able to talk about it, it helps her to understand, like, wow, guy might not have been as crazy as I thought. He actually had the story to tell. So, you know, yeah, that's me. I'm honored to be able to be here to talk about my journey. And it's been a grind. I've cried so many tears in this house. I cannot even tell you guys the darkness I felt in my house, how alienated I was. and I didn't even want to come out of my house. I had a good friend of mine, this elderly lady who going through her own problem. She basically came up to my house and she was doing a lot of volunteer work to go feed the people that was in Lahaina. So after the fires, all the Red Cross and everything came over, and so they was sending food out to Lahaina every day, like 800 plate lunches, I don't know, 3 times a day. So my friend was running this food up. And so she told me, you can come with me. So I finally went. And the first time we came into line, I just cried. I just cried because Lahaina is such a spiritual, it's such an amazing place. The culture itself, it's like you're on an island. They have their own like place. And this devastation of that fire just wiped out that whole place. I had a couple of friends that perished in the fire. I mean, it just happened so quickly, but uh, I had to forgive myself for that too. You know what I mean? I kind of just prayed when we was going into line. I'm like, it's okay. The people who died and, they're kind of wandering around, their souls just kind of going through it. But it's powerful. Lion is sad right now. The people are sad. My cousin, my cousin is kind of like an advocate, standing up and fighting for the Hawaiian people and the people of Lahaina. I'm just looking at it like, dude, it's way over your head, you know. It's way over your. We can't even decide if that was purposely done or whatever that is. But there's other things going on in the world that's more important than that. It'll right itself eventually, but till then, try to be influencing in the world, not try to create more trauma. It's unnecessary at this point. So that's what I
Guy,
try to.
could you talk about um, having to deal with cancer in on Maui and how that's different than somebody who's dealing with it on the mainland?
What was the question again?
Talk about why, like for instance, you could take yourself, how dealing with cancer on Maui is can be different than somebody dealing with cancer on the mainland.
I know. I think on Maui we don't have the facilities and the knowledge for the doctors and everything to really do a good job on it. Kind of that's why I went to Oahu to do my surgery. So much the technology there is so much better. But I'm not going to say that they don't care because originally my first operation my first chemo treatment I did was on Maui. So I don't know, the severity of what that was, but I actually went in and they removed my, tumor that I had, and then I had to go back and do another surgery later on because my lymph nodes around the area was, positive too. So I don't know. That's a great question. When I was in Ohio and I had to go through a second treatment of chemo and everything, I went to the University of Ohio State, Ohio State University, the Buckeye State, right? The university. So I went up there to go sit on a panel with like 5 or 6 doctors because I'm thinking, what's the big deal? But maybe they didn't realize, breast cancer was so rare like that. And that's why they wanted me to be up there and kind of do it. So I don't know, I don't know. Like I look at it like, man, I wish I had a different cancer. You know what I mean? But no, everybody got their cancers that they're having. I'm just kind of looking at it like, and not to overlook the other cancers, not saying it's important, but being such a rare cancer of being a breast cancer survivor, um, that is kind of scary in a way because I am the lone wolf kind of wandering out there. You know what I mean? I'm not walking around a pack of people that's like that. Um, I was asked to go up to Pittsburgh in September to be part of the gathering of the wolves. So Men Up to Breast Cancer, Men Up to Cancer is having a yearly wolf pack gathering. So they asked me if I wanted to go. And I was like, I ain't got nothing better to do here. But I'm gonna go up there because uh, a male breast cancer survivor died recently, and he was kind of like my mentor. I kind of followed him. I wanted to mimic him. So he passed away a couple of months ago, and the effects of it really hit me hard because he was one of us, one out of 726 males get it, he was one of us. So he was known as the stage 4 cancer dude, I think it was called. And so I changed my name on my TikTok. I was known as What's Cooking with Guy. You know what I mean? That was my whole thing because it was kind of like my version of sharing my journey in life. It wasn't so much cooking, but it was about me talking about whatever was happening with me. Then when I started to follow him, I changed my name to The Other Cancer Guy because now when I do the stuff that I do, and it's about the other cancer guy. And that's my mantra of kind of things. And not only cancer guy, but cancer women and anybody affected by it. That's what I want to be. I want to be that vessel, where uh you need somebody to come up and be the light of your party. You want to get me, my number is no, that's it. It's just I try to be as positive as I can in a world where being positive is actually kind of negative, trying to be that way. So anyway, that's the moral of my story.
Does anybody want to chime in?
Yeah,
Georges?
sure. First of all, Guy, it is it's fascinating how similar people that survived the disease, how similar we are. And I see in you a great attitude. It's not like jumpy, energetic, but your inside attitude and what you learned from this. I finally kind of like realized that this thing happened for me, not to me. And I just listening to you, it's almost like it always takes me a little bit back to my experience. And obviously the caregiver, I mean, an angel, my wife, and then we have 5 kids, and so we have different ways and different types of cancer. But at the end of the day, it's like I don't know if you guys, we have one guy, Ross, I think, with us, but I ran marathons as part of my training for tennis, and I had no idea up to my first one. People don't understand what it takes to do a marathon and going on mile 20 and you're hitting the wall around there. You kind of like, oh my God, 5 more miles. But when you meet somebody that ran it as well, you have something in common. It's almost like there's a spark there that made us want to train for the marathon and do it. And this is kind of like the same. And it is interesting because, the disease changes, but it changes for the better. It makes us wiser. I'm listening to you and I'm just, kind of like absorbing this this love that you're giving by being humble and sharing in a way that is so transparent. And that doesn't happen. If you didn't go through a challenge like the one that you have gone. And what is amazing though is that you kept going in different ways. You forgave. I mean, you live in an island anyway, but you get isolated. I felt isolated when I went to social events and stuff. They knew I was sick, but I was just like everybody's having fun and stuff, and I'm there, kind of like feeling that I didn't belong there. I didn't feel well. I was, kind of like the noise, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm missing all this, and little did I know is that I was just growing. I was just, just fighting this thing, and with five little kids that we had. So, but I commend you because I did have a friend that had breast cancer. He grew up playing tennis with me, and he survived it. Then he came back during COVID, and so 3 days after he got his shot, I was against it. I'm sorry about that. So I said, Alberto, don't do it. Don't do don't take this stuff. So the whole family did take it, and then 3 days later, he had some problems breathing, and so he went to the hospital in Miami, Baptist Hospital, and he never came back. He did call family members that because it was COVID, we couldn't see him, we couldn't go see him. But yeah, it is rare, but it happens. It happens. Breast cancer, yeah, for men as well. Cancer doesn't care, man. He doesn't. They don't know if you're black, white, if you're poor or rich, or it just hits you and you have to deal with it. But thank you so much for sharing from the heart. I can feel that, and that is so important. That is just really so important to be legit. So thank you.
You're welcome. And my girl's probably gonna kill me for saying this, but it was coming as something about the marathon that we were saying. She's writing a book called Marathon for the Master. It's kind of like a Bible study book about, kind of living your life and kind of walking with, Jesus. So when she first told me about the book when we first met, I was like, you got to write that book, like marathon, because that's what we're doing, right? We're all running our own personal marathon to get to where we got to get to at the end of the rainbow. And I
Hmm.
just thought it was a beautiful uh, brilliance on the way she thought about it. I said, when you finally make the copy, I want, a copy of my own. I'm actually starting to put a book together because one of my good friends told me you should write like a memoir of your story. So I said, I already got the line, like, the subject of the book we call it Courageous, but I use it my grandson's name at first. So his name is Koa. So Paul means like he's solid. He's a tree, right? He's going to grow to be strong one day, and that's why if you saw my little picture, I had called strong in the back. When the day he was born, he actually gave me that reason to keep on going and living my life because he pretty much saved me. But it would be called Courageous. That would be the name of the book, and then it would be a story about the other cancer guy. So speaking for, other cancer guys and the isolation is crazy, man. It's
Yeah,
crazy. You're asking yourself all those questions, but for me, what it did was it's just a blessing that I can give back, and that's important.
good. Yeah.
What we're going to do
So
now is we're going to shut off the recording. Anybody else have anything to mention before we do? Okay, we are going to shut this recording off. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining us here at the Cancer Conquering Community. Thank you to Guy for sharing his phenomenal story. We really appreciate sharing from the heart.
Mhm.
So thank you so
Yeah.
much. This will be on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel, Cancer Conquering Community. So please like, subscribe, make a comment in the comments section, and then we will see you next week with Dr. Gary Phillips, who will be talking about the foods for cancer patients to eat as well as not to eat. So thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next week. Have a phenomenal week.